concerned about that, otherwise we'll dive in. So the first thing is we just want to confirm why we're all here. Hopefully that's pretty clear at this point, but I want to make very clear so we understand that. Second of all, just understand how this particular conversation fits into the multiple other processes that have been going on, specifically the thing that Vince from OSBA has been facilitating us through. Thank you. Third, just do a check-in to make sure that our overall district vision of graduating every student is still our guiding light, our North Star, whatever. I know there's been some discussion about tweaking it here and there, but as long as the general concept is on target, that should be a driving force for these objectives. So that's number 3. 4 is then just to look through some, or just make sure everyone had access to some key documents that should be input, namely the thing that Vince has created for us, which we can talk about. Obviously, all these report cards, our profile of graduate has been some good work lately. Those should all be inputs into then the final set of stuff, which is, okay, what do we want to move the needle on? What big things do we want to accomplish over this next year? And mind that we're already well into December, but that's fine. We can look at these for the next year and a half or whatever time we want. We want some shorter term objectives, not just 5-year plans, but some near term stuff. So brainstorm on what those are, and then get to a point where we can start narrowing those down, hopefully through consensus or voting or however we want to get to it if it's not obvious that we've got coalesced to a set. And then finally outline next steps and where to take it here. I will tell you, so yeah.
I
So
sent
there's
you,
any questions on that? So the whole thing went blank.
okay, I sent you the link.
Okay. How did that go blank though? The screen just went back to connect to your device. Or did you then go to sleep maybe?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Great. So I will get in. So
Should he hook up to this?
if I'm in Zoom, it should be fine. If you're, oh, then it would be,
You could,
Yeah.
the people could see it
yeah.
and you could see it, but we couldn't see it.
Oh, because well, aren't you presenting what's on Zoom there?
No, this is from
Okay,
my laptop.
okay, then yeah, then I guess I need to be.
Do you
up
want
there.
this?
Yeah, is that,
Okay.
do I need to trade places with Brian or?
I think it comes straight.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, the core is huge.
Okay, great. Okay, good.
Probably.
Oh,
Nope.
Yeah, and don't.
God's sake,
don't-
don't disrupt the stage. Okay, well, if I'm doing that, then I probably don't need to share via Zoom. Great.
Okay,
Yeah, that works then. Okay, so any concerns on our flow for the evening? Okay, so let's just make sure, number one, is that we're all on the same page. What, again, we're trying to get to is that, you know, at most 5 objectives, 3 to 5 objectives, goals for this next 12 to 18 months, that we would assign to Susan, that then she would cascade down to her staff, that we would start looking at reporting progress against, you know, maybe if there's 5 objectives, every meeting, we look at 2 of those and we just cycle through and get updates on how things are going. Maybe we do a work session and talk about that, but, you know, the goal of today is to come up with those objectives. One big caveat, I have something we'll get to about how to write a good objective, because the vast majority of organizations are hideous at that, even with all kinds of, you know, guidelines
Why
out there.
wrote this, because this is ridiculous.
Don't get me started.
Yes, that's why I printed this out.
Susan and I already had that. We're gonna talk about that. Yeah, but let's see. Well, I'm gonna go there because you opened it up. The first one of empower academic growth and achievement for every learner. Anyone can tell me what the hell that means?
I read it a couple times, I should just use this as a fire starter, this is a bunch of bullshit.
Yeah, so. Anyway, so we had some, we have some, I have some guidelines that help draft a good objective, but one of the things is don't try to do it by committee. So if we all agree on basically the objective, you know, the core intent, then I will take that assignment, go and draft what I think is a robust objective, and then bring it back. And hopefully we can avoid too much wordsmithing, but then we look at those and adopt them. So I don't want to do the final wording and wordsmithing, because that goes terribly bad when you do that as a group, and also it takes way more time than we would want to do. So the goal is really just to get to kind of what are the, you know, the core intents of these 3 to 5 objectives, and then we'll get, hopefully in the January meeting, review actual language in it. Okay,
So going through this, is it best to go through the portrait of the graduate? Are we going through that to then try to pull out objectives?
so let me just, let me just keep walking through this and let me think we're gonna actually answer that question. All right, so my number two here. So understand the connection between what's already been going on with OSBA and what we're doing here, right? Because I don't want to just ignore what, Vince walked us all through. But I do think there are actually three different things. When I read through so I think the intent of the whole OSBA effort was really a long range plan, a 3 to 5 years, right? And that is a fundamental thing we should all be doing. But again, I attended when I was at the conference, the OSBA conference, Bethel School District, they've gotten very robust about their planning. And they talked multiple times about how, someone said, oh, well, we haven't done a 5-year plan in a while. And someone said, oh yeah, and they go and find it on the shelf from 4 years ago or 5 years ago and say, oh, we better do that again. And of course, what's the point if it just literally gets done and it sits on a shelf, right? So that's one thing I want to make sure we're going to do a long range plan that we then use that to inform our short-term plans, right? I think as I said, there's 3 elements at play here. One is a long-term set of goals and plans. There is some of that in the document Vince provided, some of that. The other element I think that is more in this is really around the value set, about creating safety and academic success and different things of that nature. And don't want to cover here, but I think for us to, and I know the district has a set of values, I assume it's published somewhere, it's been a long time since I've seen it. But we can go back and look at that, see how that ties into what Vince's process got to us. But I think, reestablishing our value set, which should drive everything, would be a robust exercise. But again, don't want to take that on here. But I think those 2 elements, a long-term plan and a value set, is what Vince has captured in this plan. But I would argue that some of the long-term plans are not as crisp and robust, to Ryan's point moments ago. And I had the same observation. Susan and I had the same observation. So I think there's still a lot of work to be done in a 5-year plan.
Can I jump in?
course.
So I was one of the big pushes, trying to get the strategic plan going.
Yep. Yeah.
The 5-year plan to me had nothing to do with testing a school. It was about facilities, class sizes, and basically it was like looking at the 5-year plan of, is the middle school gonna make it 10 more years? So when I pushed this idea for the 5-year plan, it had nothing to do with the percentage of kids graduating. It was
Really, facilities.
a long-range facility plan.
Okay. That is not what this obviously became.
Correct, but that was my objective is, okay, we have all these new houses coming
Yeah.
in, we need to plan for the 5 years. So
So to me, our 5-year plan, one of the objectives of our 5-year plan should be a 5-year facilities. plan.
And that was what I was pushing.
And we clearly didn't get that out.
Correct, and that's what I saw.
Yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say the initial ask of Vince in this work was not to develop a plan necessarily, but to help us come up with a district vision and district priorities. And then in one of the early sessions, it was made very clear that once those priorities have been set, then the school administrators and teams with them would be developing a set of goals,
Right.
tactics and measurables to support.
And I think,
Priorities.
so that's very good clarification. I think that is more in line with what he's
I
delivering.
think he came really close.
Yeah, yes, yes.
I'll tease him next time
Yeah.
I see him. How dare you.
And so,
Yeah.
put it another way, and this is actually how Bethel School District organizes it. The priorities are like categories, right? A very obvious one being facilities is a very clear category.
Yes.
Academic success and growth, staff development, right? Those would all be categories, school community safety, community collaboration. These are, the priorities are like categories.
Ooh, sorry, I just wanted to test.
That's good, that's right. That's right. It's nothing more scary than hearing my voice.
It didn't do the whoop whoop that we had before where it's like
Oh, you
one
really,
single noise gets echoed and then like
infinitely.
it grows and grows. Kind of cool, but.
So that would be what I would suggest, we evolve, Vince's document here into what Bethel did very effectively is, and I'll have to go back and look at they had 4 different categories, priority areas. And one of them was not facilities. I thought was interesting, but, and I think, so doing that, I think revisiting and clarifying our value set, and then creating that long-term set of plans, we all need to tackle that, and I will start to figure out and bring to you guys a proposal for, what chunks we do that over the next few months. But I don't want another month to go by without us, as the elected officials of this district, to not give Susan some direction of what should be the priority most immediately. Because we could, more appropriately, we should do the 5-year plan, we should do our value set and the 5-year plan and then the 1-year plan, but I don't want to wait until May to get another set of objectives, right? And so, and because I don't think Susan has gotten a clear set of those in the last couple of years. And so we, that's why we're kind of putting the long-term stuff aside. And again, I think a lot of what Vince does got us to a point, but now we want to focus on the short term. And then we'll go back and hopefully the short term fits into our ultimate long-term plan.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure it will, but if not, we'll make adjustments.
Yeah, we did some whiteboard stuff and we talked about things like, the renewal of the local option levy. That's gonna be something that
That'll be a long
we'll
term.
consider at a particular time. The 5-year facilities plan, and if we can bond in 2030, which we can, I look back at the last time we bonded to be able to say, at what point did the facilities committee start really working in earnest to do, so I backed up that timeline. So that we would be able to have that. And so, those things are all in the thought process and pattern that we addressed about where are they long-term, short-term, but they need to fit somewhere. And so those were things that we had out there.
Okay, so this was bullet number 2 here, which is just make sure that the stuff that has been done is by no means been ignored or cast aside. Quite the contrary, it will feather into all this, but we are going to take a pause from that and get some short-term objectives. Okay, that's his question on that. We'll move to number 3, which is we have this vision was set 8 or 9 years ago. It has been the guiding vision. I still think it holds pretty compelling water at this point. I know Susan shared there's been some discussions about some proposed changes if it's administrative level. I think here at the board, we can have that conversation. Again, I would do that in a separate session. And what I really just want to do here is just confirm that this basically still is, the spirit of what we're trying to achieve. That one, we get every kid across the finish line and we launch them into whatever's next, right? And we don't just wash it, we don't just say, hey, well, all we're worried about is today. And don't even worry about graduation, even when they're in 3rd grade or 12th grade. So obviously that's not our intent. It is to get them graduation, but then it's also not to wash our hands of them at that point, but really help them to that next step. So are there any concerns that should be at this point, continue to be one of our overarching guiding lights as we create our short-term objectives?
No, just my quick notice, because I'm one that doesn't like the statement. It lists you options, like this,
Yeah.
you're doing these. It's not open-ended, and so as I vision transition to life, as I read this, it's saying you can do one of these things. And that's what I didn't like about it, was it doesn't say launch into the world and do something. It says you can do this, or this.
Yeah.
Or you fail at this.
So, and I'm really up for that conversation. The only thing what I don't like, and you'll see that when we talk about what makes a good objective statement, it cannot be so open-ended that it means nothing to everybody, right?
Right.
It's gotta, especially the people, the staff who are trying to get the kids there, right? And so, prepare them for success in life. That's mother than apple pie. That doesn't, I don't know how to organize an effort around that, right? So, that's the part I would just want to make sure that whatever language we come up with, people can understand, the people who have to go make this happen for these kids, or help them make it happen for themselves, I'll put it that way.
Yeah.
Knows what it is we're trying to get to. And, because I know the military is a great option for some, and we don't specifically call that out, although I would call that a job, right? So I know there's some things that are missing. We can talk through that. But I think you agree, the general intent
Yes,
is on target.
I just want to let you know what my
Yep,
issue
yep,
was.
yep.
Yeah.
And Susan shared that, and
Yeah.
but it's good here for me. A citizenship.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Plan and just like that. And I think we could fuse
Yeah.
that into there.
Yeah,
really.
I've started, cause I hear that, and I started playing with language in my own head. We wanna keep it short, so this doesn't become a run-on, but,
Yeah.
Right.
but there,
Yeah.
we could be powerful statement.
Well, and the values, you know,
Yeah, I
that,
think I'm-
that adds into it too,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
And I'm interested to hear Maggie and Lainey from the two of you, you've not been involved really with any of our process going through this, so I'm hopeful that you will pipe in also. To be able to speak to important.
And it could be this is our mission. And
Yeah.
the vision is talking about the components like being a good citizen and all those other things, so. And go back to the good old MVP, mission, vision and values.
Yeah. Exactly.
Anybody else like to close the minute a whole bunch?
Um,
Then we have to come up with an acronym for our values that every employee will absolutely hate.
right, it's right over there on the wall, that
Yeah.
nice already has one. Okay, so the next one is, this is where we just start the discussion of, you know, source documents of, you know, what could be, should be some of our top priorities, again, for this, let's talk about 18 months, you know, really the rest of this school year into next year, right? And so I think as I write here, the long range priorities that Vince put together, I think this, you know, again, there's nothing real specific in here that is was precisely a lot of corporate speak and whatnot, and I think it provides good general priorities, but not specific objectives. But it is a good source document because it did come from community surveys and from community engagement and from board conversations and staff conversations, so there's good content in here. It's just not phrased like specific objectives. But anyway, that's one source document. Obviously, all the report cards that we've been through, I think there's a lot of good stuff in there that should help focus us. The portrait of a graduate is also an excellent document of what we would like to see in our graduate. Those are the ones I've come up with, and then as I put in number 4 there, you know, anything else that you guys are familiar with that you know, documents you've come across or conversations with you know, constituents, things we campaigned on, you know, all of those would be fuel for then what goes on the next one, which is start identifying what some of these objectives that we would want to bring forward might be.
So I did my homework, I was thinking on objectives, so if I can jump in and start. Reason I brought this, so when I think about I guess it's a stigma. I still think people look down on trade schools versus college. It's a concept, you're going, oh, you're just going to trade school, you go to college. And in my limited research, trade school, people get jobs quicker and make more money and have less student debt than, so I would like to. When I went to college, and I still think it's that way, that people feel like, oh, you just went to trade school, that's it, and I would like to get rid of that, and then, so I brought this, cause here's my 13-year-old that did this, and he says that the kids love to go to woodshop. So if there was. Like, the kids that weren't my kids that don't have all the experience that my kids do, if you're 7th grade and you have options of more vocational programs, you might learn where you're gonna go. So I would like to put an emphasis, that was the whole reason I ran for school board, was to get an emphasis back on trades. We're in a rural community. I come from a family of very educated, my family is very, very educated. And there's not a lot of job openings. And yet you can't get enough people to go be a plumber to make $150,000 a year. And you can go to college and have $100,000 wrapped up in student debt and apply for jobs for 7 years where you get hired. So I would like as one of my mission statements, and I look at this Porch to Graduate, we have strong work ethic, critical thinking. You learn some of that stuff. Jump in there.
Honestly, like, I really agree with that. I went to like the trade fair that was hosted at CV this week. And I think there was maybe like 10 of us, and some of them were just kind of like, well, I'm just here for the credit. Like, I'm not actually here to like, this isn't what I'm actually gonna go do. And it's like, that's really looked down upon, I feel like, and it's such a good outlet. And I feel like I think college is great. Like, I'm gonna go to college, but I'm doing like some other stuff anyway. But like, I feel like there's so many of like these college things to go to, and then there's like maybe 1 or 2 things a year for like a trade school, which is so weird to me because we have such a strong CTE program that it's like, hey, what do you mean? Or like our U Science thing, like we do this thing called U Science, and it
Mostly gives you careers like.
right. It's like psychologist, go to this school, it gives you a bunch of like colleges, and it's like, okay. And I got one, it was like be an electrician, which I'm going into electrical engineering, and I was like, okay, cool, what trade school? And they were like, no, we only have colleges. It's like, so,
That's interesting.
yeah,
Because the reason we picked U Science was it measures interest, but it also measures aptitude.
I think,
And the nice part about that is, you might not know you're good at something,
Right.
that can then steer you, but if all it's doing is pointing to colleges.
yeah, I think,
That's, I did not know that.
I think
That's
there's,
Let's talk EE
There's-
sometime.
right, there definitely is, I have seen trade schools on there, but it's not as heavily pushed as the colleges.
Right.
Cause it's like, I was very much more interested in like the electrical and audio side of things, and it gave me like jobs for like, to be a doctor, and it was like, you can do this, and I was like, okay, but that's like not creative, and that's what I wanna do, and then it was like, okay, well, you can be a kid's doctor. Like,
Wow.
yeah, it's like, great.
Yeah, I think, actually, I think that especially getting a new, like a college counselor specifically for, like, after graduation has been really good. But I think like, there's a lot of pressure for people to go to a college instead of a trade. Especially like in high school, like everyone's like, what do you wanna do? Like, what college do you wanna go to?
For sure.
And, yeah, it's not like,
It's like an
do
expectation,
not,
isn't it?
yeah.
Yeah.
So-
That's
So-
good.
So I'm gonna take us back to the vision, and I was the principal in writing this original vision, and I mean, it's, the first one is a job for those who aren't gonna go off to school, right? Help them get to a job. Training was supposed to very much imply a trade school or an electrician program or whatever, right? And then form a college, whether that's a 2-year or a 4-year degree, right? So I'm 100% behind, this country has a huge issue with not enough kids going into trades, and it is a very rewarding and frankly, a highly lucrative career. And so I'm 100% behind, making sure that, kids know that's an option, all the ranges of that option. So yeah.
When to go along with what these two said, part of it was getting that stigma out, so making sure kids and the counselors, the teachers. Don't talk, I know they don't, but you get the persona that they talk down upon going to trade schools, like they commented on that, oh, you're not, what college you going to, so it's promoting that. Those are good viable options,
Right.
It's creating the culture
yeah.
within the district and throughout the district.
And Leslie Adams, she has done a fair amount of pointing kids in directions of things that they can talk about that may lead to trade school and some things like that. And she's provided some opportunities for some students that it's been amazing that she'll say, if you have an interest in this, would you like to talk to so and so? And that's been a gift in terms of helping people out. But yeah, I do. I think there's a mystique that says college is the answer.
Right.
And heaven forbid that I take a gap year, because it's gonna be the end of the world.
Or like a
Just your
certificate, or
and
like
then
a-
a student and not have to plan your grants and come on your stuff. This is a very specific tactical level thing, but I just got my invitation email to speak at the middle school career fair. And so it's timely. I wonder if we might reach out to, and I cannot remember the name of the person who's organizing it this year, because it's a different person. To ask if they can specifically invite people from trades to come speak.
I just say reach out to Steve.
It's a very open-ended invitation.
You help me remember my other comment of this. So, sorry, jumping around. The other thing about this is, again, kids that aren't my kids that have these opportunities. The sense of accomplishment and pride they get from knowing they can do something at a younger age. Cause if you were a high schooler and you haven't done, you could, oh, I go to school, I'm not good at anything, why would I go to school? Just, if you don't play sports and you're not in the programs and you don't get recognition, you don't know you can do anything. So I'm a big pusher of, you have to push beyond your limits, or you never know what you can do, so I'm always on the edge of what is safe, what you should do, because if you don't push your limits, how do you know what your potential is?
Yeah.
Right.
But giving kids opportunity to do something that, and I do realize my kids have way more opportunities because of how we live than most people will do. But coming to school and giving them a reason, I kind of think that you'd have some kids, and this is probably a wrong perception, but some of the kids go to the academy just because they don't want to go to school and they can do it kind of their schedule, but they got excited about, oh, I have this class I want to go to. and you have to stay in school and you can't bounce back and forth. I'm not sure, my mind says that would help keep kids on track because they're excited about something. Like, I know at CHS, we had the welding shop and the auto club and things, and so you went to school so that you could go do those things. And I just think, and I honestly don't know what the school has to offer, because I haven't looked at the vocational programs. I just know that starting them sooner and getting them to do stuff gives you a sense of pride, accomplishment, knowing what you can do, and then pushing forward.
Right.
So that was the end of my spiel. That was what I was thinking about.
Just what, and again, we're not wordsmithing, but does that, my first bullet there, capture basically your.
Yeah,
Right, and I added the point about.
yeah. And I guess my last comment was just as a way to keep kids excited about going to school. Like if you keep it, because if you play football, you know, you come to school, keep your grades and you play football.
Yeah,
but-
it's finding a source of self-esteem.
Yeah.
Or like self-empowerment.
Well, and a sense of accomplishment, just knowing you can do something.
Yeah.
Because if you don't have the opportunity, how do you know?
Yeah, and I feel like the lack of knowledge of like what you can do in like the trades, cause like I feel like if people knew what some of the trades were, maybe they go into trades instead of just taking off right out of high school. Like, I had no clue that real estate was. And I went to a trade fair and I saw real estate.
Yeah,
That's true, because it is like a special certification.
Right. Yeah, and I feel like it's so shown, so like limitedly, it's like, okay, you can be an electrician, you can be a plumber, you can be a welder.
Yeah.
But it's like, after I complete college, I'm gonna go take some courses at a trade school so that I can go do performance rigging and performance like electrician. So I can go like build stages and I can go build facilities like that, and it's like, I didn't know that existed like maybe a couple months, like 6 months ago. And that's exactly what I wanna do.
There you go.
Just picture you crawling under like a house.
That's what I do over there.
I mean, I picture like me from ropes.
Also,
I mean,
yeah,
that's what I spent my third period doing, like,
the number of hours I've spent on the scaffold stage,
oh my god, double life.
while simultaneously having an incredible fear of heights.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so the first bullet is my attempt to capture, again, the general sense of where Ryan is. The one I put up there was, if we do believe that part of our mission, our vision is to transition every kid to something other than sitting in their parents' basement playing video games. Which unfortunately I know happens to a handful of kids. We have to find a way to track that, right? Because other than college admittance rates, which you do get data on that, hence why you have the 61% here. But how many go to a trade school? How many have a job, even if it's just down the street at McDonald's? We don't have a mechanism to do
No,
that.
COSA used to do that. The School Administrators Association used to assist with that. By doing surveys in a first year out and fourth year out. And then they said, well, now we're gonna charge you for it, and people couldn't afford it.
Yeah.
And so, the ability to track it gets more and more difficult.
And
But yeah. I
At
mean,
this stage, I'm
you try
less
your
concerned
best.
about 4 years out and more about 1 week out. I
Yeah,
mean, I would like to
yeah.
know, you know, what I love about the Wilmouth, or the high school and the graduation is we read those 3 or 4 sentences about every kid. And, you know, there's always that handful of kids who literally, I'm gonna sit in my parents' basement and play video games until, you know, blah, blah, blah. And most of the time they're just going for the laugh. But the reality is there's some, you know, that is serious. And there is no reason why we, as a school, as a community that cares about these kids, to basically have had a conversation with everyone saying, what is your plan on, you know, graduation +1, you know, graduation day +1. And so to me, being able to track it is definitely one thing that I think we have to put in place. And that literally can just be every counselor within the last 3 weeks of school is talking to every single student and saying, what is your plan? And if they don't have a plan, then we find a way to pull them aside and say, okay, maybe you should start looking at applications for McDonald's or trade schools or
Yeah.
LB, whatever it is. If you've got no plan, what can we do to get
Do
you?
you currently do that? I remember a counselor going through CHS and asking us all what our plans were.
We do for graduation,
Yeah.
they read it at graduation.
Yeah, but as far as the ones that say I'm gonna sit in my parents' basement, or I don't know what I'm gonna do, because there's a couple like that. But if we're,
More intentional.
and I appreciate the comment of we're not necessarily talking about waiting until somebody gets to January of the next year. We're talking about before they ever leave.
Right.
We just wanna know what their intentions are at that point.
Right.
Then I think we can be more intentional.
And then
I was gonna say, think of the metaphor of graduation, right? You walking across stage, you're walking away from the high school because you have your diploma and you're walking towards something on the other side of the stage. I would like us to be giving every kid both of those hats. We're gonna get them to the stage and get them across it, and then we're gonna help them get to that first step out.
Well, and that was gonna be my question is when and I don't know if this is a counselor, when somebody talks to the kid, what is your plan? Is there somebody? Don't ask the kid the plan. Is there somebody helping? Like if somebody says, I wanna do this, is there? Is that the end of the conversation?
No,
Or is there if somebody says, hey, I really wanna. Whatever they wanna do. Do they help them figure out how to
Yeah.
do that? So it's
I
not,
think so, but I mean, I'm not in the plan, so
right?
I don't know. I think Leslie Adams has been good at that.
Yeah, she has
A better, a better addition in terms of having the bandwidth, and that's really her role. Is to be able to do those things. So I would say yes, but I don't live it every day.
Yeah, she called like me into the office a few weeks ago just to check in and see how I was doing, see, make sure. That I was doing.
Yeah, cause I know she's tracking, Leslie's tracking, that she's tracking what students are interested in the colleges that they might go to, or who's gonna go to a trade school, or who has an interest, and so she's done a lot, I think, to really be able to pull some of those pieces together and be able to give support.
And-
she's great.
a lot of this is following the kid, but let's say the kid walks in or they call me and say, I wanna be a marine biologist. Okay, how do we get from today to there?
Yeah.
That some of us help them, okay, here's, not do it for them, but here's, you should check into Fish and Wildlife, or you should. Talk to somebody at the aquarium about
They
it.
also help them with their class
Okay, okay.
schedule so that they
Yep,
can do
good.
the right
That's what I-
elective
okay, great.
science classes,
Okay.
et
Great.
cetera. So one thing we brought up earlier that I just don't want to forget, which is probably a separate page in your slide deck that you're building, would be the long range facilities planning, making sure we capture that is
Yeah.
at least kicking off the process thereof.
Well, just put it here, that's a short term, yeah, okay,
I just didn't want it to
yep, that's no.
scoot it off. Which makes me think of the 2030 bond, so. None of us will automatically still be on the board when it's time for that to happen, but some of us will be on board when it's time to start working on making that happen. So that is something we should have, obviously not on our 12 to 18 month, but.
No, she was gonna talk about
Keep
that,
that percolating.
both those and the local option renewal don't have to be in this 12-month, one that we definitely.
Local option levy.
Well, that might be in that might be. in
It's
there.
27, 28.
Oh my God.
So Tom, I'm thinking a lot more about your second post up there, so.
So wait, I'm just gonna plug on that, it does fund, we are funded through 28,
Yeah.
27, 28, okay, so we wouldn't have to start till 27, 28. That's outside
I
our.
think it was, I said we could do a vote in the fall of 27
Okay,
or the spring of 28. So that as of July 1, 2028 is where we would.
Yeah.
Begin to move.
Well, that just doesn't seem like it's nearly long enough since we did it the last time. Cause I was on board when we did it last time, but.
5 years goes fast.
So here's the thing, Tom, to establish the mechanism to track post-graduation, so. Measuring the success of the student, the superintendent, everything truly is after graduation. So getting the kid cause to your point that you said there, you care what they do when they leave the stage of the diploma, where they're headed.
Yeah.
That's really the measure of how successful they were in school.
Right.
And currently, the only data is the 61% after college.
Yep.
But the real measure of the self-evaluation for a school board superintendent is a year later, 2 years later.
Yeah.
How that actually did. So now that I never think about that, but now you put that up there, now I'm thinking about that, that really is a measure that would be important is. Yes, it's,
So what?
yeah, so they graduated high school.
Yeah, I mean,
Now
that's why
what?
Facebook exists, cause it used to be so people could brag about where they were after. they
So,
graduated.
but as we're thinking about, measurable traits for Susan and the school board, that is an important thing to track, cause that is the success rate of the whole program here is
Yep.
where they went after.
I like you thinking, right, so I've augmented there, right, what graduation day plus one day and graduation day plus 1 year. So, and those are two very, very different things. I think in a matter of a few weeks, we could put in something in place to say, to be able to basically document. I don't trust the little quirks they make at graduation, because most of the time they're just trying to be funny or cute. And so literally we would sit down and have a conversation. They can say whatever they want in those.
Right.
They're not obscene, we all know the rules there, but
Right.
you know, I don't care what they say there. It's what is your actual plan? What are you really gonna do? And so that to me is what we could probably deploy very quickly, right? And those, and again, there's obviously a huge swath of kids that seem that the counselor just needs to confirm you're applying to college, right? Or hey, you've been talking about going to trade school for 3 years, you're set, right? But it's those that we don't have those conversations with, and it's not real obvious. That's where the staff would have to spend their time. So it's not they have to do it with every single student. There's plenty of students who their path is very clear. We just got to document it.
It's almost like we need an exit interview
It'd
for all of our.
That's literally what I'm describing. That's
Yeah.
literally what I'll just use that language. I think that's great.
Yeah,
And
Yeah.
girl,
And they
on
also
the,
complain about what we do.
there's still career fairs, right?
Yeah,
And
it's
when-
great.
So when those career fairs come, there's a lot of college recruitments, is that right? Or is it?
I haven't been to one yet because I'm a junior.
Oh, there's college interns. I think.
I'm just curious what the broad,
I don't think we have job career fairs, do we?
The career fair that happens in Corvallis is mock interviews for people for like job applications, college applications, things like that. And then OSU puts on career fairs.
well, I was just
But
thinking
high
about
school
the.
students are invited to those as well. You don't have to be a college student to go to those.
Maggie's or both your girls' comments, I never thought about real estate as a trade. Electrical engineering, they're trying to steer it towards doctoring and stuff. At those career fairs aren't put on locally, but is there a? I wonder if they need to be broader range, so, cause I never would have thought about real estate as a career. As a vocational type
Vocational career.
Yeah.
career, so. I'm wondering if there needs to be a better understanding of. Hey, these are,
These are all central.
I'm kind of
Yeah.
thinking like, if,
well,
I think it falls under. I mean, adjacent to this eradicate any negative connotations, the flip side of that is. Elevate the positive ones, right?
yeah,
Like,
Yeah.
let people know all the cool opportunities that are out there, create that excitement,
well,
not only for staying in school, but also for what you could do.
what I'm thinking is a path, like, so if you're. A lot of people graduate, don't know what they go to college, they switch majors, don't know what they're doing, I'm wondering earlier on if there could be. A trajectory, like, okay, you're shooting for real estate. Here's the sort of. Avenues, you're shooting for a nursing program, here's the avenue, you're shooting to be a doctor, just.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if there could be a better trajectory so that you can start planning, cause when I graduated, I heard a lot of people going. I went to college because we were required, my family to go to college, I graduated LB and quit because I thought it was a waste of time. Because I knew what I was doing, but a lot of people went there and said, I have no idea what I'm going to school for, they take random classes.
Until they find something that they like.
right.
But
But there's nothing wrong with that.
there's nothing wrong with that, but if you.
For education.
But if you knew more opportunities
Yes,
as a 12, 13, 14-year-old. There's a lot of
Yeah,
money.
it doesn't mean you can't be doing that earlier, for sure.
Right.
But junior college is a perfect time to be doing that too.
A labor actually has exactly what you're talking about. You can go up and put in a job title and it actually lists out like, here's the education you would need to be able to do that. Here are career paths that you can do, and you can click on them and then they expand out and you can kind of
Well, I think.
go down a rabbit hole for 4 or 5 days if you wanted to, different options for different career paths.
An assembly freshman year or something that just kind of gave. I'm just wondering if it's I see it as a motivator. If you have a goal you're searching for, it's gonna help you as you go through high school, going, oh yeah, this is necessary for the path I'm trying to go. And I'm assuming people have a path.
Well, some
No,
don't, I mean, that's
that's what I was
the
trying to
easiest
say.
piece of it that's
That's
gonna be
what I was
helpful
gonna
too.
say, because there's a lot of kids that don't know what
But
they're gonna do.
If there was an assembly that had, just a broad range of every kind of, everything you could throw up there, that then somebody could say, hey, I saw that today,
Yeah.
now let's.
That's the middle school career fair
Okay.
is one of the things they also do in high school.
So in
Yeah.
high school, and you two can speak to this, when does that conversation start? We talked about how at the end of senior year, we're asking where everybody's going. When does that conversation start? And you talked about how Leslie was pulling you out and talking to you individually, but is there ever that in freshman year or sophomore year?
I feel like there is, it's not as.
Or do you have to actively seek it out?
We freshman year, you kind of have to actively seek it out, like, it's definitely there, but it's not as, like, you can't go to the career or the trade fairs or like anything like that, like, you can't leave for a field trip. Until you're a junior or senior, like, that's why I said I didn't know about
But
the
like
career fair.
within school, like you know, the counselor.
Yeah.
This is.
It's-
This is.
it's-
Or whoever, and they are helping you with classes,
Yeah.
and trying to figure out where you're going. With their discussion, is that like a standard procedure? I'm wondering if when. Any given child that comes into high school, if there is like a standard. Here's what you're doing in high school, here's our objective to get you through. It seems like a very like fundamental level of.
My sense is, we do it well on the college side, because you have to take all these requirements, you know, in high school. Or you've got to go through the junior college class before you get to a four-year program, right? So I think we do a very good job of that. I think what we have not put the staffing and the, you know, the mechanism in place to talk about the other options, because frankly, you know, we really haven't. We haven't embraced the objective, the goal that we have of transition every kid to that next thing, whether it's just a job, you know, even just a job at McDonald's, you have to show up to work every day, you have to learn how to work with people, you have to learn how a process works. You know, that for some kids, that's a great first step, right?
Well, it seems to be.
But I don't think we help even those kids do that.
Well, to your point that we're doing that at the college, like at the college.
Yes,
2 years.
More so, well, way more so than the trade school.
The fundamental, the fundamental necessity that we're not determining, we're not helping the child to determine which path they wanna go, we're only having them self-select. And so how do we support them at that younger level? To
Right.
your point, I mean, I have a child who does not fit into the boxes and they excelled at woodshop. And they loved doing man tech and they love forestry, they love having those hands-on things.
Mhm.
And they're discovering which part they like, so. I guess, I know that we're trying to get ourselves to objectives. And I think we're like rabbiting down the hole, of, like, how do we solve these objectives, which is like a further discussion for a different work session. I understand how our work sessions are working. But that objective is. Obviously very dynamic.
Well, I also, oh, sorry. I also feel like in doing this, and it goes to eradicate any negative connotations and create excitement for students going into the trades. I also feel like we need to be careful about how we measure success. Because if you don't go to high school, or if you don't go to college, that doesn't mean you're not successful,
Absolutely.
right? And if you find a job, to what you were saying, Tom, if you find a job, it's not just a job. There's nothing wrong with just a job. It's going, reporting, being, you know, having ethics, having responsibility, all that. So part of doing that, I think also has to be, we have to be careful about what we're defining success
Well, and
as.
how do we define the success? For every student, it's not,
We can't.
we can't.
We
But
can't.
each student can define that success for themselves, and that's where that conversation starts at a younger level.
Exactly.
And really getting them to hook into that concept.
No, you're so good.
Over setting.
You're so good. Just kind of circling back to that first thing, I feel like you can totally correct me, but this is just what I feel. Is I feel like freshman and sophomore year, it's like, okay, great, how can we get you to any sort of like, I'm gonna say higher education, but that can apply to like colleges, anything, certifications, whatever, and then it's like, okay, great. What do I do with that? You know, it's like, I don't feel like we're really told freshman and sophomore year, we're just kind of put up into like wanting to do something after high school, and then it's like, okay, great. What am I gonna do after that? And it's not really until like junior or senior year that it's like, oh, hey, blah, blah, blah fair, blah, blah, blah fair that you can go to, see what you can actually use that with. And I feel like that would almost be more helpful earlier. Cause I feel like it's a lot harder to comprehend when you're like less mature and you're like freshly 14, and it's like,
Right.
okay, great, they're wanting me to go to this college, but like, what am I gonna do with this, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah, and then it hits you like right when you have to start like applying and figure out what you're going to do, and you're like, wait, I haven't thought about
Right.
this. I
remember that.
I didn't get Leslie until last year, so I didn't have like someone like that my freshman and sophomore year. I just had St. Clair, and she's like really busy, right? So I met like, if you could get in to see her, it was more of like the schedule changes and stuff, and I didn't really get into softball.
This is my point, we've never staffed this
Right.
type of.
Right.
And we
Which
can't.
is where it's appropriate
For
for
us
us
to
to
be
be
talking.
talking about where we put our budget, and you know, where we set our goals. And also, one of the things that I had written down
somewhere in here was, a priority area that I think is really important is staff support in regard to resources, trainings, keeping them energized and safe and whole. And I think that that's a tangent of this, is like, if you have school counselors who have, how many do we have at the high school right now? 400-ish?
Mhm.
So if they're each responsible for 200 students.
Yeah.
How can you expect them
Right,
to
right.
do all that when a
Right.
very large percentage
they
of
haven't-
their work is dealing with mental health? The students too, they're not just.
They haven't failed to do, you can't fail to do something they've never been asked to do.
Yeah.
So-
That's right.
They're counselors and they help with academics, you know, so. That's a lot.
What grade are you in 15 and 16? Is that sophomore?
Sophomore and junior.
So this goes back to 4-H. Carolyn asked me what my favorite part about being a 4-H was, and it's easy. My favorite part about it is the 15 and 16-year-old kids, mainly girls that we hired, is awesome because that they go from they can't do something to holy crap, we can do that.
Mhm.
And that is awesome. So going to my point, like we hire these girls to.
Drive
Yeah,
tractor.
drive tractors, and it's good with 4-H. They asked me 4-H, but my favorite part about being a leader was, but I think back about the girls I hire. They come out, they're scared to death, and then a week later, they've done it. And then they go on to do, Megan's my favorite example, I love
Yeah,
Megan. 'Cause that girl,
absolutely.
we put her in a semi, we put her in a track, she's like, I can't do anything, I'm like, yeah, you couldn't do it yesterday, you're gonna do it today. And they do it, but the point that these two girls said is starting earlier.
Mhm.
Do it at 15, 16, 14, 15, 16.
Yeah.
Cause by the time you
Maybe not
hit
the
that.
semi truck, but some of the others.
But by the time you hit 18, you're kind of, you lost. If you do it freshman and sophomore year, that gets you the momentum and excitement to go. I think if you're getting to be a senior and you haven't,
You don't already know.
It's kind of late to start planning,
It's kind
right? It feels like it's.
you're kind of
not
like,
starting.
oh, I'm gonna finish high school, now what am I gonna do? I can't do anything, I don't want to do
Right.
anything. But if you promote that earlier on, I
Yeah.
see that as a trajectory that helps.
And I would challenge that the job fairs happen way before senior year.
Well, I mean, that's fine, we've been, yeah, there's period, but again, the notion is we're talking about
Yes,
kids who graduate, certainly there's summer job fairs, right, but
sure.
but the kid who, looking for a career job, or at least a initial early career job, that's the seniors, right?
So I think another completely separate focus area that I just want to get on here is talking about financial sustainability of the district. And one of the things I brought up and talked to several different people about is, Corvallis has one. Is there space in Philomath to start a Philomath School District Foundation?
And we're
That would
in
help with
conversation
some
about
of the
that
things. I
already.
know we've talked about it before as well. And is that appropriate for the board to assist with, be involved in, at least get the word out? Is that an area that, makes sense? But,
I met with the foundation.
the Fulton Community.
Fulton Community Foundation a couple of weeks ago. And so their board is also having conversations about what that means for them. So we've started to engage in the conversations about that. So
I mean, it would make perfect sense to house it within their organization. They're already set up to do that work. But when I look at things like college is incredibly expensive, trade school is incredibly expensive. Current landscape of our student loan system is, I'm sorry, both of you, terrifying. I've been paying my loans for a very long time. It's not less abysmal, than it was when I took them out 12, 14 years, however many years ago it was. Having a foundation that could have scholarships, that could have, funding for some of these cool things, like having a career fair. If the foundation had a fund that would help, bring speakers or, different things like that.
I'll just point out.
Yeah.
There actually is a sub-one that exists. I've been a founding member back in 2017 and still the
Performing
treasurer.
arts.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
performing arts.
They get my dollars every year.
Your solicitation probably has already been sitting on your desk now, went out last week. Yeah.
Laura was literally the cover
The-
child of the pamphlet for a few years.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Little
So this is the Philomath Performing Arts Benefit Fund we're talking about, raising endowment. The end of last year, we were up to almost $300,000. We'll see how the market did this year, but yeah, so we're giving back to the schools. Last year it was $11,000. This year it'll probably, $12,000 to $13,000. So There is a foundation, it's just specific to the performing
Yes.
arts, but there's no reason this community
And-
wouldn't
and-
start to fund this one.
When Susan and I initially talked about, it, gosh, the end of last year, we first talked about, I didn't read it. We mentioned,
Yeah.
I highlighted that as a stellar example of. Like such, it is a narrow focus, and look at how much money has been raised for it, because it's an important focus of our district.
Well, the other piece of it that we were looking at,
Just real quick, I'll point out, the Philomath Community Foundation manages our endowment, so we raised all the money, but they manage the market investment, so, because that's what they do, right? They have all these endowment funds. Sorry, Sue.
that's what, the other thing that we want to watch for is because of the expense of everything. I mean, they just raised a bunch of money for the middle school gym floor. There was a bunch of money raised when they put in the play shed at Clemens. There,
Cool.
the pool, there's a bunch of money to look at for, the interest in turf. And, the playground at the elementary school. And so what we've got going is a lot of different entities asking for money. And the thing that I don't want us to run into as we lead into the future is, we already gave you money, we're not gonna vote for a local option levy because we give you money all the time. And so how do we set up a process and a protocol that would allow somebody to give a big gift or a small gift to a specific project?
Yeah.
And we just continue to work with the foundation on an ongoing basis about what that plan is.
Well, the narrative surrounding this kind of
Yeah.
endowment of next steps.
Yep.
Does allow for that kind of separation
Yep.
and that at least compartmentalizing of the tax base versus this like furthering of our community.
Yeah.
Which is I mean, that would be important.
Right, and that's how
That
we started to engage in the conversation, so I met with a couple of the board members. And they took it back to the Benton Community Foundation Board and had a conversation about what would it mean for the school district. And, where do we fit and, how would it work, and, I said, if the answer is no, the answer is no, but.
Was it
Let's at least talk about it.
If there's a
Philomath
conversation.
community
Yeah.
or Benton?
No, it's full.
So where does Clemens Foundation fall in all this? I mean, we wouldn't wanna. Go
We-
head to head
we-
with Clemens
we don't
because they've
know.
been so supportive. I mean, I know it's waned, I know that, but
Well,
They're
and
privately managed.
I wrote.
understood.
I've written to them on a couple of occasions
Mhm.
and heard nothing. In response, and I've heard also that, I mean, and don't get me wrong, they've given so much to this district and this
Absolutely.
community and its people. They are stellar.
Yeah.
I'm just disappointed, but I also know that, it's hard to be able to continue to dole out,
Mhm.
over multiple years. And, yeah, what are they,
Yeah,
I just don't know, but I mean, I keep trying to reach out.
yeah, well, that's good, because I think that we can't like push them under the rug and forget they exist. because
Absolutely not.
That was set
absolutely
up in
not.
good faith so
Yep.
long ago that I
Yep.
think it needs to be recognized.
Yep.
It'd be nice to be able to do some sort of partnership, but that's probably.
Well,
that
and
needs to be a
As we
first
talk
step.
about trade school, that is the only career path that they will still give money for is trade school.
Mhm.
And I know we need to get them up with other things, but one last thing I have on trades is. A lot of it doesn't cost the district anything, like I was at West Schwab the other day and one of the guys like, hey, you're at the school. On school board, he goes, we would love to come in and just show people like what a safe tire is, how to change a tire, how to jumpstart your car, like we'll come and do it. We just need to know like if there's a space, but we'll just come, it's once a month or whatever. He's like, we just want to help people be safe, so we'll show you how to change your tire, how to jumpstart your car, how to put a tire chain on.
I
So-
can think of a frame of a car that I used to have that would have benefited from.
So,
somebody teaching me
so a
how to
lot of
do
these
it.
trades,
I never learned any of that, I still don't know.
a lot of these things are free to the district. And people that are hiring for trades aren't gonna charge to come, they're recruiting for.
Right.
I mean, they do this in LBCC, their diesel program, PAP sponsors. You kind of in a sneaky way, but they'll pay for your school, but you signed a 5-year do not compete clause. And until they turn you loose, you can't get a job, but they paid you to go to school and gave you money every term for tools.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But so it's not costing to, most of the trades that I'm aware of. will come for free, so it's not a cost.
It's cost time.
Correct.
And so that's the fine finesse. I like the idea, and I think there are things that we can do to be able to promote things like that.
That would be part of a job fair, wouldn't it? Maybe, I mean, it could be.
It could be.
Actually, that could be,
Mhm.
cause you get like 45 minutes to an hour or
Yeah.
more with each set of kids, that could be a really cool opportunity for them to come. They would be younger kids, but who cares, like,
Yeah.
a 13-year-old should know how to drink fire.
Oh, you're talking about middle
The middle
school,
school
yeah,
one.
we're talking about adding that to the high school level,
Right.
but. I actually think you brought this up, I think, in the last board meeting, and another way to look at it. So I went to college and had 2 degrees in engineering, and engineering 3. It's referred to as the leader class, it's the one that, it's really, really challenging that first class, and it scares out half of the kid. The old joke is, teacher says on the very first day, look to the kid on the right, look to the kid on the left, one of you won't be there, and at the end of the term. But what engineering 3 was we did a lab on every single range of, stresses and motions and solar power. We did all of this, so it was really an introduction of what all the different engineering tracks or fields you can go into. There may be a CT class that is just that. It's literally, you're gonna get 1 week of electrical coming in and teaching stuff, another week of a woodworker. Doing.
That's kind of what I've been, yes, that would be wonderful, because then you get the experience.
The exposure,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's like a team, what's that PE class, team games or?
Like team sports.
Team
Yeah.
sports, but
Yeah.
for CTE.
Right,
Yeah, I mean, I would
right.
love to go do that with the graphic design class and just be like, here's how you design a restaurant, here's how you design a billboard, here's how you
You
design
think
a
of
logo.
local, you think you were Miller Timber. Okay, Miller Timber they works across the world, from firefighting to logging to road, I mean, it's,
Tree planting,
Yeah.
all sorts of stuff.
you think of Miller Timber as just, they have 2 log trucks down there. Miller Timber is not a timber, they're a full company. But I had a kid that worked for me, he said, I'm taking the summer up to the Miller Timber, because I'm going to go fight fires in Honduras or something. So they travel the world. Which a kid from Florida could go right,
It's fun in every country.
but a kid from right here can go travel.
Right.
A kid that otherwise couldn't afford to go see anywhere else, get a job right there. And go sign up to go to Hawaii, you can go wherever they're working. And so there's a lot of opportunities that you don't think about, that if you did that 1 week of Miller Timber comes in for a week, let's Schwab, or not, it's a week of this thing.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, so what can we do as a board to help give the resources to the staff and administration, et cetera? To have the mental space to think about stuff like that, cause I think that's where we can make a difference.
well,
is
I
like-
think as an objective, I see 2 objectives, Tom, to start on. One of them is looking at more job opportunities, whether it's just opportunities. Let's leave it as that, whether it's, I'm pushing vocational, but opportunities is one. The other one was,
So that's it from here. Right?
yeah,
Yeah.
and then the other thing was, I thought, the following graduation, post-graduation. So I see Tom's already got 2 clear objectives there that are measurable. One of them is, okay, we're gonna more opportunity provided, there's the CTE class or whatever, that's measurable. And a follow-up. Now, you can't make a kid follow up a year later, or 6 months later, a month later, but it would be,
You take what you get.
you take what you get and you can, and it's something to measure off of.
What are these things we as a board can do? Or are these things that we have to figure out how we can support to make them happen, cause somebody else will have to do it?
Well, Susan ultimately has to do it, we're not, there's a couple things we could do, like a foundation, we could personally take on, but most of this is gonna be for Susan.
It's on an
I
operating.
thought we were trying to get a set of 3 to 5 clear objectives for Susan to have a target to work. So as I understand what we're doing.
Yeah.
Those
They-
two,
Yeah, I should have, because there is, they are really board objectives, the vast majority of which we would just, delegate down to Susan, right? But there could be 1 or 2 that literally is our responsibilities. Like we decide we want a school foundation, yeah, we could probably help enroll Susan, but really that's probably more of a board level. When we go to pass the bond measure or the levy option, the school district can actually not be involved, that she can file the paperwork, but then they can't advocate So then that really does become a board objective. So the majority of these will just go right over to Susan. We will help support the budgeting process and all that, but really be on her. But there will be a couple that could be at our level, just, yeah, to clarify.
But to clarify, I thought one of your big objectives today was to get
Yep.
3 to 5
Yep.
clear.
Right.
Yeah, it is, it is.
Okay, that's what I want to make,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, no, you're absolutely, you're dead on that.
So we're on a couple-ish, I think.
Yep. So, and I wanna, just because I think we've spent time on this
Yeah.
and we're down to less than an hour now, so, I would wanna go to the scorecards, and I'll just point out the things that concern me in these, right? And no doubt Susan already has this same perspective. So first of all, you know, it just burns me, the regular attendance stuff, right? And we're not terribly off from the state averages. I think in most cases, we're a little bit above. But it's just such an endemic problem. That one really, I'm just gonna kind of rattle off what bothers me, and we can talk about what we think, but, and I know that I'm a liaison to the elementary school, and I went to their opening assembly with all the kids, and last year they did a whole big thing around getting kids to school, and if you show up, you get to participate in these special events and that kind of stuff, and they really touted that this year. So there's no question some of that is already happening. Do we need to help put that on steroids? Because we all know that, I mean, the data is incontrovertible that the more kids show up to school, the more likely they're gonna be to graduate, right, and be successful, et cetera. So, is there something around just district-wide getting kids to show up? As one possible objective or question. And then, again, I think the high school graduation rate is great. We're not at every, like our goal says, so we could be looking at that, but at 98%, you're getting awful close to that. But when you factor in the academy, we're not there, right? And then and Kings Valley, Susan and I discussed this, they have their own board. They don't usually take too kindly to taking direction from us. So I'm not sure that, I'm too inclined to set objectives that we would try to cascade down through them. We can talk about that, but that would be my job.
Kings Valley's not part of Philomath, except that's where the money goes through.
We are still responsible for them.
Okay.
We're
Yeah.
not, it's a weird thing. We're a little bit responsible to them and we're a lot responsible for them. Yeah.
So their graduation rate, in essence, is Philomath is good.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you look at the district level
Okay, I didn't-
results, King Valley's in there.
okay, I thought they were just a charter that just funneled through us.
No.
Oh,
They are a charter within the Philomath School District, so
Yeah,
therefore they
what-
roll up to her numbers.
One of the things that the state did here, because what they're trying to do is to set like districts to be able to establish targets, growth targets of the things that we're gonna need to measure. And originally, they were gonna have charter schools in the measures with districts. And the hue and cry was, no, we don't want that, because we've got brick and mortar charter schools and we've got online charter schools, and they're very different. And so for now, unless a district and a charter agree and opt together, let's get some data on the charters independent and have them be a group or groups among themselves, rather than being included in district counts. Just
Well,
automatically.
and even more specifically, right, as long as the charter school is living up to the charter and not basically failing or floundering, then they really don't have to take direction from us, and they really don't, because they have their own charter, they have their own, they have to meet state requirements as well. And you correct me if I'm wrong, I mean, it is.
No, they do.
And so, ultimately, if they are way off track, because ultimately, to Aaron's point, we are accountable for them, we step in and say, hey, if they graduation plummeted to 10%, saying, hey, you're failing, and we're gonna step back in and direct. But until that point happens, we really can't interject ourselves.
is that 98% including Kings Valley?
No, because that's our high school.
It's,
If you look at.
But the
if you
district
look at the
page.
district
On the
page,
district one, it's
the
90.
district reflects for graduation, Philomath High School, Kings Valley, and Philomath Academy.
Here it is here.
These are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
These are Kings Valley.
So, but in the 98% is Philomath High School, not accounting for the academy.
Right.
No.
But this one here would have all three, the high school, the academy, and the charter school.
But when you're looking at stuff for Philomath, let's separate Kings Valley, because they're their own thing at the moment. why is the academy not lumped in with Philomath if they're saying that, if we're saying that the exact same standards?
They are.
They are,
They are,
Oh,
they're
They are.
lumped in
They're
here,
in this one,
But then
not in
each-
the high school.
but they have their.
What we don't have is a PHS only.
that's what I was
Yes,
asking.
you have all
No.
three. You
Yeah.
have Kings Valley, Brim.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Brims, and
so-
And see, that's where we do some of the slicing and dicing outside that on our own, because we wanna know what it is with Kings Valley Inn and what it is. with-
And I'm saying for our purposes and I guess for your evaluation purposes or what we're talking about. Why are we separating the two Philomath schools if they're one and the same?
Well,
that's the
that's it.
state, that's it.
It's the state's measure. They go by each individual school.
Yeah. I mean, Blodgett, for example, it's not elementary and Blodgett separate, they're together, excuse me, we have a report card for each of those because they're a different building.
Yeah.
basically.
And really, Clements would be lumped in there too.
Yeah, they're not. They are their own.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always like to point out that we should never forget our 5-year completion rate, because that's very important.
It is.
It includes our GET students and
Which that,
5th-year completers.
on the Philomath Academy one, that is a pretty stark, I can't remember what it was, like 67 and like 89. or
Yeah,
something.
yeah,
So I mean,
it's
there
incredible.
is a follow through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That we should be very.
And see, that's what we
That-
take a look at
Yeah.
internally, is we're able to say, yeah, you're at 67, but you gave out 14 or 12 or whatever.
Yeah, 57
GEDs.
and 89.
Yeah.
And that's a big bunch of kids, and that's to the point of like, it's not necessarily. Because I mean, it accounts for a lot of those kids that don't fall into the, like, you're gonna make this happen in 4 years, you're gonna do all of these this way.
Some of those GED completers do it in 3 years. It's just, they fall in 5th year. It landed exactly how it needed to land to not create
Perfect.
chaos.
So Tom, help me
And
work
once
here,
again-
thank you, you brought this up because we're
That's
talking about
helpful,
mental
yeah.
objective,
And then this.
and I'm not, I guess I need. Keep explaining how, I understand where you're going, I'm trying to come up with a,
Yeah.
one line
Yeah,
objective.
yeah.
So you need to keep going, so I haven't got it in my head yet.
Well,
I know where you're headed. I just
Yeah,
can't
yeah.
get there yet.
So I want to start with just general focus here. So one is just attendance, right? Do we want to have an objective around just getting kids to show up? And I know that's already been going on, but if we put it at the board level, it just gives it that much more focus and attention, and it could give Susan the excuse to, hey, we're gonna fund to send every kid who's in that 90% gets to go to, spend a day at Enchanted Forest. Right? I mean, it's that important to us that we're literally gonna do something really big like that, right? I'm just throwing that out there as a, if we
Right.
really created any, you would move the needle for some kids. It's like they.
I personally am more interested in why is the attendance lower than what we could do as a board to improve attendance, because as was already mentioned, the schools are kind of working on that. I also always worry if there's like an attendance reward. Does it have to be perfect attendance to get it? Because if somebody's sick, I don't want them coming to school.
Or there's
Because
some
my
other
kids will be
place.
It's a
sick
regular-
for 3 weeks. if
The
they get
definition of a
sick.
regular attendant is they're there 90% of the time.
And if we can hit that, and that's the goal to win
Yeah, oh no, that's what it is. That's what it is. It's not.
Um,
And we've got a state state group that we're looking at participating in, that is looking across multiple districts to be able to look at student attendance. And how we encourage and promote and things like that. There are a couple of pieces that also extend culturally. We have families who are choosing to say, the time is now, we're gonna take a vacation that we may not have taken in the past. Or if there's something that's going on, I'll keep my child home. More so than I think that's happened. The other thing that we see is we also have staff who are using more leave than they have ever used before. Now, the thing that I can't argue with is they earn it. It's deserved. And so if somebody says, I'm gonna use all my personal leave, where 10 years ago I would have said, I'm gonna hold on, I'm not gonna use it all. We've just got a different.
Yeah.
When I say social dynamic, it's not just Philomath, it's kind of everywhere.
it's too short.
And so, it is important for students to be in school, and we're looking for those ways. But we also, I think, have to consider too, that there is truly a social,
change.
change, yeah.
Do we have families who are afraid to send their kids to school?
We do,
because
we have,
of
we have some that are afraid.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But, and I think that it kind of goes to get full circle, which is great, so where Tom said attendance, and I brought up the CT stuff, like Tyler was sick one day, he's like, well, I need to go work on my project, I have to go to school. So having reasons they wanna come to school, nobody wants to come to school to sit there and take a test, but having other opportunities.
Saying
That would give
nobody.
some people.
Sorry.
Have you, you'll never be over here taking
But-
this online for fun.
But back to my point, if we have objectives, and if we write, if there's an objective that says add CTE programs, and one that says we want better attendance. Susan, or with our help or whatever, can say, hey, this program here, whether it could be performing arts, it could be in the leadership, or something that gets the kids. Ooh, here's a project we wanna get there for.
Yeah, which is why I support sports, even though I don't understand that.
No, No, I'm just throwing it out there is we just know it's such a, I mean, if you look at, and I think with the exception of the academy, because it's comparing to general high schools, but in every case. We're above the state, but well, like at Clement, 67 versus us is 73. The middle school, 67 versus 69, so that's pretty close. The elementary school, 67 versus 76, so that's pretty good, it's almost 10 points higher.
Yeah.
So we're not doing badly relative to the rest of the state. I would say we're doing terribly relative to what kids really should be doing. And we just know that really moves the needle in terms of student engagement and overall performance, graduation rates, all those things.
What if you change the word from attendance to desire? If the kids, so.
Well, it's attendance is measurable. That's-
Yeah, but I guess what I'm getting at is if, as an objective, instead of saying a minimum attendance requirement, somehow. Attendance is the measurable thing, but
Well,
desire
like-
to attend school.
My objective would be, the way I would phrase the objective is put in programs that,
Support attendance.
yeah, that exactly, that encourage better
Yeah,
attendance
okay.
across the state.
Yeah.
well, the state's gonna ask us to measure attendance too. I mean, that's just, it's one of the pieces that they are coming out with.
And let's be clear, right? Like I've talked about this in previous meetings, right? Obviously, keeping students continuing to show up is Susan's day job, excuse me. Quite tongue tied on that for some reason. And so if we don't ever do anything, she's still gonna get measured by, still gotta do it. But if we really wanna move the needle, then that's when you put it as an objective. No, we don't wanna just maintain the status quo or go up a few points. We wanna jump it by 10 percentage points. Then we would put it as an objective. And I'm not gonna get strongly behind this one because we aren't bad and there may be other things we think are higher priority, but because it is such a huge predictor of everything else, that's why I'm putting it on the table.
As an objective and looking at the other objectives that we have up there, all of those feed into this objective, making it a pretty low hanging fruit. As far as like, if we are really serious about getting behind these objectives.
Yeah.
It's in theory.
Yeah.
Improving all of this should move that forward and get attendance higher, to your point. I mean, if kids wanna be here, if there's a positive.
I mean, other than the foundation, they
Other
they
than
all
that.
support that.
You don't
Which the
think the kids are gonna
foundation
be
will
like, I wanna
inherently
get,
also,
I wanna get there
because,
to the foundation.
but like having, schools that look good, like they've proven, having,
Yep.
clean,
Yep.
brightly lit.
Right.
No question. Oh, yeah,
It's better to
James-
get a good environment.
We get Joey out there.
Fluorescent tubes.
Oh my gosh, that I could hear, because
Yeah.
maybe I'm a little neurodivergent,
There was one down on.
my math class,
Algebra
I think
today.
that's why I had a hard time in algebra too, I'm not even joking. Cause I could hear every single light and that, I couldn't hear what the teacher was saying, I could only hear the lights.
Something that we've talked about as a group of administrators that we know is gonna be at least the next, there you go, 3 to 5 year kind of thing is.
We're not leaving until that's all done.
Okay.
So,
Oh, that's
So-
great.
sorry, Susan, I
This
was
is my favorite time.
The world is changing in a way that is in generics, the purpose of school about teaching, thank you.
Don't forget Michelle.
Yeah.
Okay.
I had to, memory and knowledge? Or is it making a shift that we have knowledge available to us? So what are the skills that encompass that knowledge? Which is a different way for the teachers and administrators to think. But those are some of the conversations that we're starting to have about is the rote memorization of certain things the be all and end all that's gonna help? I mean, it's important to be able to move forward, but it really is, are we becoming more about how do you utilize the information that is available to you?
Well, how do you discern misinformation? and
Yep.
Exactly.
Yep.
Everything
And
we
so,
learn and discern, as we say in there.
Yeah, and so that is a bigger part of the conversation too.
That's a meaty one for sure.
Yeah.
Trust but verify, that's another one that comes up in our household all the time, that's important.
I don't know why this popped in my head as you were talking, but another objective would be. Uniting the staff better, like I don't know how to phrase that, but yeah, I don't know what the word is, like, is I don't know if it's still the way, 3 years ago, 2 years ago, there was probably some tension, a lot had to do with the person that's now gone, but there was a lot of, the staff had a divide.
Right.
That problem is gone, but just, I don't know what the word is that we put as objective, but uniting the staff, just as a. I know the effects would be, you know, the better work environment, the things, but I can't think what the word would be that we put as an objective, but.
Well, it's just
Besides unity,
so we did have. The problem in the past, I mean, do we still have, is there still healing going on? Is there? Yeah. And is that something we can address, or is that just a matter of time? It'd be my guess.
I think some of it is time, but I also think there are things changing also. In term. I'm hesitating because I haven't really taken the time to formulate the full thought. We've got a lot in a lot of businesses, and it's not just in education worlds. Of. I've got too much to do and not enough time to do it. And it's your fault. I mean, and some of that has measure and some of it doesn't, I don't think. But, again, there's a cultural shift. In some of those things that I think we can't ignore.
I think the cultural shift is accountability. Nobody's accountable for their action, if their kids' actions, it just goes down the line, so accountability is a cultural shift.
Absolutely.
I also have a theory that has to do with resilience. I think that the pandemic eroded a lot of people's natural resilience, because resiliency isn't getting through something, it's how you recover after you've gotten through something. And I think fundamentally people's baseline of how much they can do, how much they can take on, and how they recover from that is a lot lower than it was 5 or 6 years ago. I know it's not universal. I happen to work in healthcare spaces, so it's a little different for me, even though I'm not a healthcare provider. But I see a lot of that, and I've seen it in my kids, I've seen it in my friends, I've seen it in my friends' kids. Some of those stumbles become harder and harder to recover from, even when they're really small things. Because your baseline, your well is a little emptier than it used to
Well,
be,
that
and you
goes
don't know
back-
how to refill it, or it maybe can't be until recovery, which burnout recovery, 3 to 5 years.
Which just goes back to my point of 14, 15, helping these kids.
And the staff though, what I'm saying.
Yeah, but
They never got a chance to like fall apart after COVID, because they had to keep going for our kids. They had to learn how to teach from home. They had to learn how to do this, they had to learn how to do this. They had to pivot so many times. Like, I'm just picturing like metaphoric torn meniscus, you know, like we've got pickleball injuries, but they're from teachers having to just like figure out how to do things so many different ways. And then they had students come back in, and many of them had experienced some pretty deep trauma during the pandemic. And now they're having to learn how to deal with social, emotional, trauma-based responses, being trauma-informed teachers on top of just being teachers.
and we're not old enough, sorry, people, but I think that that we're part of everybody got a trophy. So the older people are more resilient because,
They're the ones who made us the participation trophies.
So-
It's not our fault.
so I think that's a.
We were not making participation trophies for ourselves. Our parents were doing that, and I never got one either. I'm Gen X.
So, So
Really young
I never made a participation trophy.
I guess my point is though that it goes without accountability and you feel bouncing back because for the last couple of decades, it's always somebody else's problem. You blame it on somebody else and nobody just takes accountability and moves forward. It's always, you just blame it on somebody else and you just move on. So. Yeah. But yeah, so I don't know, yeah, just, I'm thinking in terms of staff, a measurable thing for Susan. In terms of, as a trait, we have a thing about graduation, we have something about opportunities. But without the staff, we can't achieve that.
So you're talking about basically team building with this.
Yeah, I'm thinking of a word, I like words, like as.
Team building? No,
Sure.
not everybody.
Well, it doesn't, in my mind, it's not the right word.
Oh, okay.
I don't know what the right word is, I'm just thinking as I'm looking at the word. As I look at what we have here, I look at opportunity is one word.
Are you talking about the staff as a community or the
Yes.
staff individually?
The staff is a
As a
community.
community.
Part of the other thing of strategic planning I talked to Susan about was if we don't have a goal for the staff out there, as you're hiring people. We need to have the hiring people need to have, here's our school's. Objective, here's what we're headed, here's what we want to do, so when you're interviewing, the person has a clear picture of what they're coming into.
Their piece in the puzzle is.
Yeah. And so, yeah, so
I think I understand what you're after, but I also appreciate your struggle because the best language I've come up with is, improve unity across the staff. Well, that's the equivalent of saying, be good or do good or achieve greatness, I don't know. What's that?
Do both.
Yeah, and that, so I struggle with how do you objectify?
Right.
If I can use that word.
I like, I'm looking at, as I look at this, I see
I mean,
opportunities, the
Yes.
opportunity with have the CTE program and job fairs, then I see post-graduation. As something, as a measurable thing, so now I'm saying that, I'm just one or two words, and I don't know what that is.
I'll let you noodle on that one.
I'm still thinking unity.
Collaborative opportunities, something
Team
like.
building.
Words keep.
I'm gonna leave that one out there. So what we, other than, I think the CT stuff that could help us graduation rates, you get more kids excited about that kind of stuff, but. So I'm not hearing a big push on, attendance. If I'm wrong, speak up, but,
I think it's gonna be a through line.
Yeah.
so we have that one up there, we can figure out, I forgot I typed that up, we have that up there, we can talk about that, makes it to the final cut. The other one though, that, so if I look at the school district level one. Everything. So English language arts, this is third grade achieving grade level, again, we're better than the state. And then, but at eighth grade mathematics, again, we're better than the state, but. This is a big red flag to me, right? That only 45% of our students at third grade are meeting third grade targets, or 32% in eighth grade math. Those are, when I went through all these are the things I circled that, for me to move the graduation rate, obviously getting kids to show up, having them have engaging programs like the CT stuff, those are all gonna point us in this direction of better graduation rate. But some focused effort around, and to me, the objective is simply ensure every third grader can read.
Well, the third graders reading at grade level is one of the linchpin. There's so much data out there that says if the students that cannot read at grade level. At third grade are exponentially more. Likely to drop out of school or to struggle in school.
Is the definition of English language art, is that reading?
They've
What's
got,
that in
right
that?
now, what they're doing is the state language arts test, which is a combination of reading, writing. No, speaking and, well, no, they don't have speaking in there because they don't do that, but it's reading, writing and,
Comprehension.
yeah, there's a piece of that anyway. And so, what they're looking for is really reading and writing. As being the big ones, but reading is the real linchpin of,
Does that number represent, is that mostly reading then? Is that?
it represents the state test, which is language arts. And so it encompasses more than just reading.
But it certainly doesn't, it's reading.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'll say that this eighth grade cohort that's represented here, I love seeing the number go up, but I will also say they were the COVID fourth graders because my kid was part of this cohort. The eighth graders, and they are the ones that Susan mentioned had the opportunity for that integrated math class. So some pretty swift action has already been taken, because it was developed
Yeah.
during the first trimester, like they were like, they identified it was a need. They're already offering it this trimester,
And that is why.
that's a
yeah,
huge coup.
These numbers can be really helpful, and then they can also be really
Well, see, that's,
deceiving,
that's
because we're
what
not
we-
following that.
and that's what I also want to pair this with, I always want to pair it with what's happening with the assessments we're giving K kids in reading and math 3 times a year.
Mhm.
That doesn't take into account those students that are opting out because they can't opt out of this. And we can see growth across time, more so than we can see this. So you might have a student, for instance, in the ongoing testing, as we look at that, that I may start out so low that I'm never gonna hit that neat percentage. But if I gain a year's reading level
Mhm.
in a school year, even if I'm still not there, that's pretty powerful information. And so how do we draw that in also? But that reading piece is the math too, but the reading, especially at 3rd grade, is critical.
And these are the spring tests, correct?
Yeah, these are the spring state tests.
Tom, my mind's catching up here, back to your attendance.
Yep.
Well, think about a word, I'm wondering about community engagement. If, so the community, being parents and community, we're asking the community, just like the money we just got for the pool and the other funds. We need the community engaged. And the community engaged will theoretically engage some of the parents and help promote attendance. So is attendance something under community engagement?
Community
Affected by
engagement is
it.
one, yeah, one facet of
Or,
attendance, in the same way that.
well, I'm wondering,
CTA
Parental engagement for sure.
I was just thinking of another,
Well, a strategy to move that forward would be enhancing parent parental.
yeah, cause
Right.
I think part of Susan's job. Or our job is keeping our broad community supportive of the school. If we don't have the community involved back in the school, the community is ultimately the one that funds part of the school, so somehow making sure we've engaged. And the community engagement would also be I mean, I don't know how, anyway, just.
Yeah, I'll just put it down there, just involved, I mean, how do we, yeah, I don't have a picture of what that would look like, but, yeah. I have a rough idea what you know, what you're thinking of.
Well, and enhanced community involvement is gonna benefit all of our objectives.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Having it as a.
Well, I mean, do some of that CT.
Actually, that number.
Yeah,
I agree with it, especially that.
all, yeah, all of it, actually.
I'm still working on my teachers thing, community engagement, Katie. I'm still working on that.
I think engagement is actually a really good word for the teacher component as well. Engaged and
So,
team built futures.
so Susan, we're at what I'm honing in here now, or what I'm trying to bring to the table is the graduation rate itself, because we've talked about a few other key things here, but I don't think we've specifically talked about that one. I'm pointing to as you pointed out, or as you concurred, the grade 3 English, reading, whatever, and then the math. But let me just, you're the lead educator in the room here. What would move the needle the most if we said this is what we wanted to prioritize in terms of improving our graduation rate? And let me go back to what we talked about probably an hour ago, Philomath Academy, is there just program around, how do we, get them more resources to make sure that they're 43% of kids who, for whatever reason shifted from the high school over and then didn't make it across the line, is that?
Don't forget that kids graduate or graduation.
Yeah.
Cause that's.
It's your completion,
Yeah, that's great, but it's still not, at the high school level, it's 96% versus, no, that's the district level, the high school is like 99%.
And what, 98, 99?
98,
something like
yeah,
that.
so the point is the academy, certainly 5 years is better, but they're still not at the district level or the high school level, 99%. So if if there was one we put here to help move the needle, I mean, I'm gonna be on the board for 4 years and I want to reflect back, I do this often, right? I reflect back, what did I do in the 8 years I was on it before? And we're sitting in a building that I was a huge principal, make it happen, right? There's a few things I like to be able to say, yeah, I helped make that happen. improving our graduation, driving toward that vision we've had all this time on both fronts, more graduations and better transitions to whatever's next. That would be a huge legacy I would like to leave behind. So this year, what would be the one thing that you would bring forward that you would want us to help you get resources for and, give attention to move the needle on graduation?
Only one?
Yeah, I mean, you can have multiple, but I'm just,
No, I-
what's your,
Um,
and yeah, 2 or 3, if you got a few hot ones, and then we can figure out where they prioritize. And I'll give you 5 seconds, and then you have to go.
Go.
Yeah,
Improve the graduation rate.
I mean, the high school level, it's pretty impressive.
Right.
So what's going on at the academy that we're not getting there?
Well, I think that there is a piece of it that, with fewer students, you kind of get that percentage thing shifting around.
Well, but it doesn't, but where that shows up, I mean, it's still not. I'm not so worried about the percentage, it's that because you go from 98% at the high school level, the district level, you're at 92%.
Right.
So that's 6% that is between Kings Valley and
Yep.
the academy that's bringing you down. So it doesn't matter the percentage,
No.
you've got kids who aren't making it.
Right, and I would say, what is that continuous support, being able to look at, what is my next step? And how do I help you get there to whatever that next step is? And so, it becomes at what point do we really look at personalizing schedule? To the degree that we can.
So if we looked at, just incremental resources to, for lack of a better term, handhold more of the Philomath Academy kids to help in those last couple of years, right? It's not the third trimester of their senior year, but hey, something else just popped in my head. I brought up with you multiple times too. So I'm gonna shift gears here. I was
Okay.
talking about let me shift that. Many of you, if not all of you, know Don Cruz was, a 5th grade teacher, 4th grade teacher at the elementary school forever and ever and ever, and then he was on the board for, I think, 2 terms, 8 years maybe. And he would point out, he says, in 4th grade, the teachers in 4th grade would tell you the 10 kids that weren't gonna graduate high school.
Wow.
They knew, right? And whether they were 100% accurate, probably not, but they were probably 80 to 90% accurate. And so of course we use testing and we use grades and we use the state level assessments and all that to determine some of this. But, is there a opportunity for that 4th and 5th grade teachers to just say, yeah, we move these kids on to middle school, these are the 10 kids or the 20 kids. And I know we've got RTI and there's different things, but is there something about that where we now then say, these are the kids we know are the ones who are most at risk. We're gonna make sure they're not lost year to year. We're gonna put something in place that helps them track all the way through until we get to a point where you say, hey, no one thinks this kid's at risk anymore. You can come out of the program.
And we've tried to do more and more of the, transition conversations each spring, especially across schools, but also across grade level. One of the things that has happened just in this year is the middle school and the high school have become much more connected and looking at information. So for instance, this integrated math class that's happening this year, if you go back and take a look at it, a number of those students fail 8th grade math. And so what they've looked at this year is how many 8th grade students are currently failing math. And so, we can take a look at what are we putting into place for their success and then expecting them to come to the high school and jump right into algebra when there wasn't a level of success. And so what do we need to do to shore those things up, instead of making a broad assumption? So, yeah.
We also have like Warrior 101 at the school, which is like to help kids that are maybe a little bit more high risk, and I'm the peer tutor for that, so I'm like the teacher aide for that class. And like, that is such a good class, like, I feel like more people need to be put in that. Like, even if they're just on like a lower risk, like, that is genuinely such a helpful class, and I've seen a lot of them, like, start at the beginning of the year being like, oh, well, like, I'm gonna drop out and like by the end of this year, and then now they're all like, oh, actually, I wanna go to LBCC for blah, 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 and I wanna go pursue this, and da, 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 da.
And that's a-
Really good.
that's a-
That's great.
One
full-
person to lead it.
It's
Yeah.
a full 70-minute, right? It's not like.
Yeah, it's good.
No, and I think
Great.
that, I was aware of that, I'm glad you brought it up though, and I think that goes right to why your graduation rate has been so good, is because of things like that.
They also and correct me if I'm wrong, because I think it starts in fourth grade, is the like block 2 learning or whatever it's called at the
Oh,
elementary
they're
school.
doing that starting second grade.
Are they doing it that early now?
Yep.
Where they get to, and that is how it was phrased in our household, I get to go to this other class for this subject. And I think it helps kind of, maybe level kids and they don't realize it's happening.
Yep.
So, which is really important at that pivotal stage of
Yep.
everything making you self-conscious.
With kids failing 8th grade math, is there an opportunity for, say, a sophomore, junior AP math student to go to the middle school to help those kids before the transition? 'Cause you can't, the staff has their hands full. But if you have people that know, with the kids, maybe you learn from kids, can we utilize some kids as a credit for them to help the other kids?
Yeah, and we do that on occasion. The biggest struggle is you got 70-minute class periods here and 45-minute class periods at the middle school. And so it doesn't align well. But that doesn't mean that it can't happen.
I could almost see it
2
in
subjects.
collaboration with the preschool, with their like early childhood development,
Yeah.
but instead of early. Just like to level the class period,
Yeah.
which is not my problem to solve,
Yeah,
but
no, there are some possibilities like that, to be able to do those things.
I do know that often the AP students are taking as many AP courses as they can, because they're trying to. Get real competitive for those schools that they wanna get in.
Well, I was.
We don't wanna interfere with that, with their,
And that's why I said sophomores, not the last, so I'm thinking the closer in age, so if you have a. Age-wise, 8th grade is what, 14, 13, 14, and if a 15, 16 or 16, 17, something like that was helping them, don't know.
Any of those things are possibilities. We've got students that move all over the place to support things like that.
Programs that are remarkable when they work.
And I guess that hasn't really answered Tom's question, but is that? It sounds like those kids, I mean, it sounds like those kids left. Middle school, not ready for high school, in math, not ready. So in some level. The middle school failed them and then the high school's trying to. Get them to graduate, but if they didn't leave middle school, is that the transition, are those a point? To help boost that graduation
And
rate?
those are things that we're talking about, is, which is why the high school and the middle school, having the conversations now about where are we and what's happening. The, RTII program at the middle school is really starting to come into its own, where we're starting to see the potential for a little bit more in the math avenue. To be able to be supportive there. So the hope is that will also be able to help solve some, or, allay some of the concerns.
To Tom's point of trying to boost that graduation rate, you're not boosting it with the kid that's in, it's not a 2-year problem.
No, it isn't.
So
It is not.
I get to, yeah, Tom's question is, where do you need the most help? And I don't know. It's not junior, senior year. So. I'm just thinking as he was asking you, where that point is. And. I'm wondering if it's middle school, not high school, so I'm just thinking about where it's.
Through school.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Right.
So, yeah, just,
And again, these were the kids that got sent home at the end of their 3rd grade year, missed 4th grade, like in person. And had to go back to math in 5th grade.
There is also something to be said for the differentiation of education for individualized children at every grade. Right, and to that, like walk to, I can't remember what you said, walk to learning or something.
Walk to reading.
Walk to reading.
But that being,
They do it with math.
like creating a culture where that is the norm within our district, is that we're meeting the child where they are instead of expecting them to peg into the square that we're sticking them in. And that starts, in elementary, and I do agree with you that I think that middle school is where that, the trend, like that, the crux is, like, that's where the tipping point is, and that if you are not set up well to get into that freshman year. With things like the 8th grade math, boy, it's a struggle.
Yeah, it's the transition periods, it's like, the 5th to 6th and 8th to 9th are some pretty critical junctures.
Yes, I love hearing that there's I love the math idea. I had an 8th grade math struggler who struggled last year as a freshman, so we're working our way through it.
Well, because
But
the original conversation is we can't offer a credit for anything less than Algebra 1 because the state won't give a credit. And it's kind of like, but if that's what our students need,
Right.
then we need to be
keep them
able to offer
High school
something.
equivalent of math 95, right?
To instead of having to take Algebra 1A and failing it and having to repeat it.
And that's how we graduate kids, is we meet them where they are, give them the education that they are ready for and need. And we help them move forward. We don't say, oh, you didn't get it?
Yeah.
Tough, I was
Too
gonna
bad.
say, I was gonna say something.
Yeah, and it was a big enough cohort that they had enough students to fill an entire class too, so it's not like a tiny, it was
Well, I mean,
10 to 15 students,
Yeah.
that's.
The state requirement is 2 or 3 years of that,
3.
3 years back.
What do you girls think? When do you hear people losing, like, what do you guys think?
I feel like I hear people lose it in math right as they hit algebra 2. That's when it that's when it gets hard, like I'm a math tutor and that's when it's like
thing is algebra and then
geometry and then
Yeah.
yeah, it's like they love geometry because it's like shapes. Yeah, it's like,
Yeah.
right, it's like shapes, and then they hit algebra 2 and they're like, I don't need this because I'm not going into a math related field, I'm never gonna use this, which I think is kind of a lie in a lot of things. And it's like, I don't know, like I've seen that as like a student and also as a math tutor who's tutored algebra, geometry and algebra 2, like I very much see a fall off right after geometry 2.
I don't remember ever using sine, cosine, tangent after I got out of school, so.
Right, it's, yeah, they just don't.
Yeah, I'm not in physics.
I bet
You are
used
doing
it to pick up a
basic.
cow. I bet you've used it. You didn't write it on paper, but I bet you used it.
No, team building, what do you think about workplace atmosphere?
There you
That's
go.
great.
Culture, atmosphere,
That's
climate.
great.
Yeah, but what's the objective? That's a concept
Well,
or
I
value.
think it would be around,
The objective is unity.
opportunities for,
Healing. Bringing,
Let's hope we don't.
yeah,
like, we do the barbecue, right? The back to
Right.
school barbecue. Maybe the board can initiate some,
Like,
a couple times a year type of thing, like the barbecue. I don't know. That's a big.
I will tell you, for 3 years, I did a flower workshop at the middle school. And there is nothing that team builds like getting people out there and putting them outside of
did.
their comfort zone.
I did an art workshop with the middle school teachers a few years ago too, and I
I
just
did a lot
realized
of
I
those
never
things.
delivered their final.
I think that was
That's right.
well, this is actually the first slide in my,
Right.
I should have probably started with this, but we
you know what,
go.
Michelle?
This will be helpful. If you
I did.
write goal statements for the rest. If you're like, whoa, especially you, future EE.
So I've actually, I have this great like 2-hour presentation that I've done professionally many times on what makes a good vision statement or a good objective statement. And unfortunately, the hard drive that I, is dying and I'm trying to get it repaired, but so I had to recreate this. You've heard the term SMART goals, which is an acronym for specific, measurable, et cetera, but I actually think that isn't the best set. This is the best set I've put together over the years. So couple of, yeah, it's not meant to spell anything, but, so
Stomach.
it,
It spells stomach.
stop reaching for it, Erin. Stop spreading it, yeah. Anyway, so, these are an objective statement should have these kind of elements to it, and, there's a little description, and then these are some examples of the ones on the right, the bad examples are the ones you see all the time. I would argue a couple of the ones we saw in Vince's document, empower student success through great achievement, blah, blah, blah. That means nothing to anybody. So I just, what prompted me to hand this out at this moment, Ryan, is around staff unity, how do you write an objective around that, right? And I mean, it could be simply improve staff unity, but then what does that mean? It's gotta be measurable, so how do you, if you can't measure it, then there's. Yeah, so I don't mean to discount it, we just gotta figure out, how do we actually make that into a meaningful objective?
Which I think would be, just to take a stab at it, 'cause I feel your passion on that, would be something like, you know, enable 4 events per year that are more collaborative in nature, they're less like learning focused and they're more community building.
My thought was, we're putting a lot of stuff onto this, like student success,
Yeah,
but the student success is because of the teachers.
Right.
So I'm just trying to figure out how to
Yeah.
put, as one of Susan's goals or our goals or Susan's goal or objective is. Staff retention or, that's not the right thing either, but just, you gotta have.
Staff retention's awesome.
Yeah.
So-
Yeah, we
It also
yeah.
helps our money that we get from the state if our teachers stay around for a long.
Yeah,
time.
no, I just, as we're talking about how to graduate every student, well, the teachers are who gets there. And I don't know how that fits into a goal, but
I mean, staff retention is a good one, because that, the culture around how you keep staff. Has to do with all of the things that you're saying, it has to do with. Community building, it has to do with feeling heard and safe and.
is that a goal? Is that an objective or a goal? We have good staff retention.
that was in one of these metrics right here, this here.
Yeah. I
It's in
love
each
that.
individual school that
Yeah, we're
they're.
good.
And I would. Say also, I kind of said it as an aside earlier, but they've proven it takes one. Adult who believes in a kid.
Yep.
To
Having it.
measurably improve their outcomes as students. And if our staff are so worn out or, can't see the forest for the trees. They might miss that one kid who really needs them to have that 30 seconds to just like tell a dumb joke or look at a piece of art that they've drawn or whatever it might be to really reinvigorate them. I'll say there have been moments in one of my kids' lives where having a teacher who was willing to like pause their grading to look at a cartoon or something that my kid had drawn made a huge difference and like was talked about for days afterward, like so-and-so said they really liked my drawing and I showed it to this person too, and then, you know, they're engaged in other stuff, so.
This is what I meant to put on there.
Yeah, this is, I agree.
Yeah.
I agree too.
Yeah, I should, I was trying not to bring my preset in, but this is what I had up with
This is
this.
what we discussed.
It's in here. It's on this as one of the examples.
Yeah, exactly, that's right. When I brought this back out, well, it's actually what you're saying, but yeah, I put it in there and. Cause that's extremely measurable, right? We can, and again, there's probably 20-30% of students don't need it, right? They've got a great home life and they've got good friends, popular kids, whatever. It's still, I think it's important for them to have this person, but I think if there is at least half the kids, if not more, who, you know, and it can be. You know, the smartest teacher in the building or the principal, or it can be the janitor or the cafeteria person, just someone who has an emotional connection with these kids. How are you doing today? Hey, you look down today. What's going on? You know, whatever.
Lisa Vick is that kid for almost every single elementary school kid.
Yeah.
At CHS, Miss
Drop out
goes
at
with
school.
50 goes to the nurse. She
Yeah.
kept her bowl of candy there
Uh-huh.
and students would just go in there.
Yeah.
She wasn't a teacher, she wasn't a counselor. You just went in there. She asked how you were. She had a candy bowl, so you stopped in between and walked. You walk down the hall though, and if she would see somebody that, you know, was like, you know, slouched, and she'd call them in. And just, she was more a counselor, but she was a school nurse that everyone went to see, it was go take candy. You go see her, say hi to her, she gives you a piece of candy. And it was less awkward, I think, for kids, because it wasn't a guidance specialist, so you like basically telling them what you're doing wrong, or you didn't do. She was just, here's some candy, how you doing today?
It's the connector,
Yeah,
everybody needs a connector.
yeah.
So it sounds like we're gonna coalesce around that one being one, because I think that's very, very operational. If you look at my little cheat sheet here, I mean, that's, but it has a very big, profound, on student safety, right? Kids
Yep.
less likely to go shoot up a school if he's got a friend in the building, an adult friend. They're more likely to show up because they've got a friend here. They're more likely to do their work. They're more likely to graduate. This is one that I think we should just institutionalize. So it sounds like we're all.
What I can't think of the lyrics of the song, we're gonna try to song Point of Light, but it's basically that when you. when you see what's wrong, you try to do what's right, you become a point of light or something, but everybody needs to a point of light.
Yeah,
And I would argue that there's a way to play with that. To have it make sense for the staff as well, make sure that staff members have another staff member that they can connect with
yeah, yeah,
once a week, or,
that's true.
you know, small group, whatever it might be. And I know that they have like special projects that they work on and things like that, but like, what if it's just like not about the work necessarily? I don't know that that is an easy implementation, but
Pool days.
Pool day.
Staff got a pool day.
yeah, hey, staff, you have to wear a swimsuit for all your coworkers. Oh, yeah, right.
Enjoy.
So Susan, you never really answered Tom, have you been thinking about your one thing?
So. I'm just gonna give you an out here, unless you think you already have an answer.
We are
Nice to hear what you have to say.
I was gonna give her an answer, I was gonna give her time to come up with an
Yeah,
answer.
no, but, you know, I look at, you know, the good example that we need to really make sure that we're ensuring every student can read by the end of the third grade.
Yeah.
You know, that's, and then how do we do that?
That's your problem.
Is,
I mean, honestly, that's, you know, you come back to us and say, hey, I need this, this, and this, we
Right.
work with you to figure out how to make that
yeah,
happen, but
but I think that's the,
objectives aren't the how, they're the what.
yeah, and that to me is it.
Is there, so years ago, our neighbor was a farmer and also came here, his wife was a librarian here, Bob Henderson used to come here. And just sit with, it was a volunteer and read with kids.
Yeah.
They still do that.
They still do that, so,
Yeah, Brianna did it up until she left to go back to college again.
but with that,
Every
with a
Tuesday.
couple more volunteers. Would that help in the?
They got more volunteers than they
Okay.
need with
Yeah,
that
it's
smart reading
amazing.
program right now.
So how do you boost the reading?
You know, our RTII work is making an incredible difference in what's happening for reading for kids. The other thing that we're working on with staff is, you know, the mantra that comes along is we teach kids how to read until they're through third grade. And then from fourth grade on, they are reading to learn. But not everybody can read. Not everybody has learned to read by third grade.
Is
So it's
it-
how do we have our staff have the breadth to be able to continue to help students learn to read?
And so I realize some of this starts at home, not every parent, like, we still read with our kids, but I realize it starts earlier, but how? How do you have the programs, but? Are they coming to some kids come to school with some ability to read, or,
Some do,
And-
yeah.
but most? Does Next Steps, like I know Next Steps was out of funding, is that a program that helps boost them? Is it?
Preschool program.
Yeah, it can, any
Because if
preschool
you're getting
program.
to third grade, and that's where you're saying, well, you can't read at third grade, is it really a problem 3 years prior?
Yeah, and they started. I mean, I had a kiddo who did Title I starting in kindergarten. They recognized a little trouble reading, turned out it was ADHD, and did that, and then by first grade. She was caught up to reading level,
Cause I
because they
think
started that early.
elementary school, based on experience, is a great time. I had no idea when I couldn't talk until fifth grade that speech, I mean, you don't notice, when you get to middle school, you're picked on. In elementary school, it was just a thing, I just went to the person that put the mint in my mouth to help you talk. But I didn't think anything of it, it was
Yeah.
just a thing, but it would be a big thing by the time you got to middle school. But elementary school is a great time to intervention, because kids are
Just
innocent.
like, this.
Yeah.
So, and,
Yeah, and our staff, at least at Clemens, they do an amazing job
Yes, they
of
do.
identifying the need for intervention and then really like making actionable item plans, like planning to get that done. I mean, it's just a matter of
Yeah.
continuation, I think, and like more support, we always need more support, right? But that's a foundation.
for my kiddo was just getting out of a distracting kindergarten classroom so that she could focus until she was able to learn, and then she was fine in a distracting classroom after that, so. Turns out we also have distracting household,
Yeah, yeah.
something about lots of kids. I don't
I threw this one up,
Oh.
because it's back to my Don Cruz comment.
Yeah.
So, and that's, I understand better, this RTI stuff kind of started to take off as I was getting off the board, so. So here's what I propose, we're at 8:30, 8:34 even, sorry, I think this is phenomenal, this is exactly where I wanted to get to was, this, maybe a list just like this, of things that we think are priorities in these, and these are all. You know, we've got to tighten the wording down a bit, but they're all very much fit into this, you know, the parameters of a good objective, right? We don't have things like. Make kids great or empower collaboration through the use of strategic synergies or anything like that, which. Trust me, I have been involved in people writing those objective statements in my corporate life. So this is great. These are all very, very measurable. I can email this to you right this moment, Susan. What I would propose then is let Susan and I work on this a little bit, tighten it down. I'll keep this, so you know where we started, and then we'll come and say, because this is a lot, and so can we boil this down? We don't want 9, you know, I think we want the
Yeah.
3 to 5, somewhere in that, 6 probably at the absolute most. Especially if a couple of those are, like, one of them might be at board level one, and so it's not a super plate. And then in the January meeting, we can maybe carve out half an hour just to finalize on this. In addition to our regular board meeting.
Just for January.
Yeah.
I normalized it, like, January is our next meeting, yeah.
So this talk, you're gonna come back to us, you're gonna break this down to no more than 5.
Yeah.
And then so you're gonna have a word or whatever.
I'm gonna bring a proposal.
Yeah.
Just a
So
proposal.
are you gonna have the whole thing proposed, or we have another work session? So you're gonna take a word or.
Want to take a stab at boiling this down and proposing something, and then you guys will have full involvement in the final.
What I'm getting at is,
That together, or are you gonna do?
No, I'm gonna, I just for expedience's sake, I'm gonna come with a recommendation on what our objective set is.
that's what I
based on this.
that's what I want to make sure.
And then you guys can pick it apart as much as you want, but hopefully it's robust enough, and I'll do it with Susan as well. I'm just trying to avoid a whole nother meeting where we're crafting.
That was my question, that you're gonna come together with a proposal that we can tweak it,
Correct.
but we'll have an outline.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's what I want to make sure.
It's just this iterated to the next level, that's all
Yeah,
I'm.
perfect, that's what I want to make sure.
And this is how I've done this, because otherwise, if we sit here and nitpick, you will get statements like collaborating on synergies
Yeah.
and all that stuff, because that's just how people, becomes the group thing. So,
You'll see this and send this, we send
Yeah,
this
sure,
as is. so that
sure.
we have that.
Yeah.
And that's what, and you already obviously read that, brought this up, and just tell you, my mind can't go more than a caption per picture, so when I read these things, I like. You know, short, like measurable, how we're gonna do it, not.
almost all of these are pretty darn good.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, as we talked about, like. measure-
These really are general priorities or focus areas is what I would say, Vince has organized here for us. They are not objectives.
Yeah,
You cannot, most of these, Susan would not know how to take, I would not fault her for not knowing how to take action on these, because they're not.
I printed it out, because I read it online, I'm like, man,
No.
I got a ruler and try to, because I'm lost, I started reading. going,
Well, it was not a good start. I'm gonna read it again, because it's not, you know, empower academic growth and achievement for every learner. There's nothing Susan doesn't do every day that is that.
Do good, right?
Yes,
Like,
do
the other
good.
thing that was
You're
tough
good.
was it made it feel like to some degree that all we've been doing is sitting on our hands and
Yeah.
not doing anything.
Right,
So,
yeah. So there's nothing specific about that. And again, it's a good focus area, but it's not an objective.
Or, and you can almost pick anyone, I just grabbed a random thing, improve consistency in behavioral expectations and responses across classroom buildings supported by consistent.
Yeah.
Constant behavior.
Right.
You lost me on-
Thompson attend a meeting with me sometime, and then you'll see why sometimes I'm really tired when it comes over.
You lost me on the second word there, right?
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
what I meant, I read these things, and I can't do it.
Okay, super, so we'll look for this.
Yes, I'll email this right now, and then we will reconvene again, and we may get into it in 20 minutes in January, so that we need a work session to take the next level, which is fine, but we'll start in the regular work.
And so before gavel us out, are there any agenda
Oh,
additions
yes, thank you.
to the January meeting?
Oh, that's right, we were gonna do that.
I did this,
Yes,
and then our regularly scheduled
But-
special January stuff that we do.
To help move things along, though,
And-
Tom emails us something prior to the meeting.
yeah, oh yeah, it'll be in the packet for
We can all,
sure.
we can all, before it's even in packet, you can send us your outline.
Yeah.
Then people can email back, so that way when we get to the meeting, we have.
Sure, I can
As long
capture
as we're
comments.
not doing serial.
As long as-
communication,
yeah, as I
that
say.
breaks.
Well, if you just talk with me, then that's great,
That's
you
still
just,
serial, unfortunately.
no, if it's one-on-one.
If it's one-on-one with 5 board members, it's serial communication.
If
I
everybody-
got clarity on that one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, it's.
If nothing else, we can all.
So that means we don't reply.
Since we are
Sure.
waiting for the record.
Sure, we already
I think
know.
that's absolute ridiculousness, but it's because boards have gotten in trouble.
It's very easy for boards across the law, so I totally get that, so that's fine. That's why we'll start in the regular, and if we feel we need to come back to a working session.
So my proposal, everybody comes with it printed out with any changes they
Yeah.
want so that we can move forward.
Right,
That's exactly the
be
point.
more efficient with the time that we have.
And I will just point out that this is exactly what a board should be doing, right? I mean, we all go to the regular meetings, but you know, hearing from the associations, hearing the reports, looking at state report cards. I mean, you know, approving policies, yeah, it's all stuff we need to do, but it is not the most important. This is literally the most important thing we can be doing. And we did a great job tonight.
And I appreciate you two girls, voicing out.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
You guys are the ones in the school that need to work. We've been out of school, I don't know who's older than you, Aaron, but we've all been out of school for a while now.
I'm older than you guys.
Okay,
We would have been in high school together.
I've been out of school still 25 years, so.
We don't need to compete with these people who's all.
No, I'm 2000.
Because we both know who's gonna win.
Yeah.
I'm 2000. I'm old.
Gonna lose now.
Exactly, obviously. we could think about that.
So we would have been in high school.
I was.
Did you, at CHS? Or
Yeah,
CHS?
I was in the smoke free class in 2000, was the big dare push.
Yep.
And so the whole class didn't smoke?
Yeah, I've seen it, like, there's every once in a while.
Do they still
middle
promote
school.
that?
Are we?
I feel like it's still being promoted.
Smoking is so much less of a.
Yeah.
thing now.
Vaping.
Yes, yeah, I will, there we go, sorry, thank you, Michelle, that was.
What if they're